I'd like to call to order the January 11th meeting of the Citizens Advisory Committee for the Costa Mesa Sanitary District. Start with roll call. Ben?
Thank you. Committee member Rosemary Chora. Present. Michael Toe. Judith Gilo.
Present.
Jeff Arbor. Dicky Fernandez. Dean Fisher. Daniel Baum. Cindy Brenneman. Annette Watson. Vice Chair Sue Lester. Chair Elodie Katz.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to open public comments. Did we receive anything?
No, Madam Chair.
Last meeting, November 9th. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve? Okay, Cindy. Okay, Cindy is the first. Michael is the second. All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Oh, no. Oh, we're all here. Okay. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so item B2, receive and file waste composition studies number 4 from Michael Valier.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a brief introduction. As you know, in the past, we've been doing studies around the district, assessing the residents' cooperation in doing the right thing and recycling their food waste and putting in the right cart. And the goal is trying to get about 10% contamination. That's always been the goal. And so when we do these studies and we find that they're not hitting the goals, then we'll do an outreach in that neighborhood to remind residents that this new law is in place, and we'll really encourage residents to make sure that they're putting their materials in the right bin. So tonight we have Michael Bae, who's our consultant that has been doing these studies for us. He's going to report out to you the findings of our 4th study that we did. So I'm going to turn over to Michael.
Evening, everybody. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, thank you.
All right, great. Yeah, actually, our 4th study consisted of 2 separate sorting events. The first covered an area bounded by East 19th and East 15th on the north and south, and then Orange and Irvine Avenues on the west and east. That one, Scott mentioned 10% contamination as the goal. That one was the best sort to date. There was only a 10.18% contamination rate there. And those would be prohibited materials, green waste, and food waste as a percentage of the entire sample. The other area we did was West 19th and West 15th on the north and south, and then Whittier and Tustin Avenues on the west and east. Not bad. We had a 14.41% prohibited material rate. And really, I would consider 15% to be good. Not great, but good. I think the average is about 20%, but your program's been in place for a while. So, you know, your education's effective. But again, as Scott mentioned, we're trying to get at that 10% or below. Now, these were the first 2 sorts where we actually did a 6 sample. We added a separate sort for wet paper and cardboard. In sample 3, that was about just a shade under 5%. Now, that's material that we think with a 3 cart or an additional cart might stay dry and be able to be recycled. In the 4th sort, it was very small, only 1.52% was wet paper and cardboard. So it's not a huge issue, but it is incremental improvement, arguing for, you know, the benefit of a source separation program. I know you probably have a lot on your agenda tonight, so I can hop right into questions. But again, you guys are showing, I think, a very good rate of participation with only 10 and 14% contamination. The worst we had was the second sort was 19.88% contamination. So 20 is about average when you you view all the different sorts I do in areas. So as a whole, Costa Mesa Sanitary District customers are very conscientious and doing better than average job.
Thank you, Mike. Does anyone have any questions? I have a few comments as usual. I just want to say thank you for adding the wet paper and cardboard. I think that will add some additional visibility, especially with considering how the diversion rate might improve if we separate out to a third cart. I just had a suggestion for the staff report. It was super helpful listing out the pre-contamination levels. And I was just wondering if perhaps we might also, if it could also include the contamination of food waste versus green waste. Because for example, for this one, it does seem like quite a bit of improvement, but I think it was a 1% green waste and the rest was all food waste. So food waste was quite high. So it would be kind of nice to see with the various neighborhoods how they're, if we really need to be attacking the green waste versus the food waste.
Okay, good suggestion. Yes, thank you.
And then my other thought was for T3, since they're doing such a good job, is there any opportunity for a positive reinforcement? Because I know we do the kind of tag and let people know that they need improvement, but I realize it's probably not, might be cost prohibitive to go and tag everyone positively, but I was just
We
trying
could
to,
look into it. It's kind of like a way to go type.
Yeah,
of,
I just
we
something-
can see what that would cost us. And see
it
if
might
it's
be
doable.
nice to
Yes.
let neighborhoods know, like, yeah, you guys are banding together and doing a good job, or if that's, maybe there's some other ideas we could chat about, but if tagging is, each can is not, would take too much time, but just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, that's great.
That's really great. that
Awesome.
they're-
Thank you. Yes.
I'm trying to new, and I'm just a little confused about what it means with that contamination rate, and how things are moving by the trash, or you can't recycle certain things.
Kind of like that, yeah. So we want to source separate our materials. We want to make sure our green waste and our food scraps are out of the trash. So when they're mixed in the trash, then it's contaminated, right? Then you have the green waste and your food scraps contaminated. Now we can't take it to the AD facility for recycling. And vice versa. Now, when we go to the 3-can system, we want to make sure the recyclable materials don't have any trash on it, because then you can't recycle them, right? So it's contaminated. So you want to make sure they're source separated. That's what we're talking about. Thank you. Good question, though.
Okay, all right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year, everyone.
Madam Chair, if I may, if it's the pleasure of the committee, request move item number 6 up to item number 2. I do have another.
Oh, yes,
Guest
of course,
speaker,
for
that's
EEC.
okay.
of course.
Yes, that's fine.
Yes, so
Thank
we'll
you.
move to item B6, the self-audit of the SSMP plan by EEC Environmental.
Yes. I'll do a brief introduction. So our sewer system management plan, it's a plan that we have to prepare and implement in accordance with state regulations. It basically describes how we maintain our sewer system and then how we will respond to a sewer spill. Under the regulations, we have to audit ourselves every 2 years. We felt it's better to have an outside consultant come in and audit us, because it's hard. How can you be objective when you're evaluating yourself, right? So it's pretty hard to do that. So that's why we think it's always good to get different sets of eyes and ears to come in and look at our plan. So we did an RFP process, and EEC was the low bid, considered best value, and so we awarded a contract to EEC, who performed this audit. I'll have Joe Jenkins from EEC to come up here to explain that to you. I also do want to mention that the state just last month adopted a reissuance of their waste discharge requirements, and before we had to do an audit every 2 years, now every 3 years. So that's kind of nice. But there are some additional requirements they're having us implement. That's going to be going into effect June 5th of this year. So we're working on that as now. So I will turn it over to Joe, and he's going to tell you his findings of our audit of our SSMP. So.
Thank you, everybody. Sorry, I was waiting for the presentation. It should be a PowerPoint, the slides. I've. It's a PDF. I have it too on a flash drive if you need it.
So that's a prepared consultant right there.
Great, thank you, everybody. Yes, we can get right into the next slide. So just a little introduction about EEC and the auditing team. So there were actually 3 of us that conducted the audit here. Myself, Joseph Jenkins, they call me the main auditor, I guess. Jim Kolk, who's a principal engineer at EEC, and Varshini Reddy, who's one of our project engineers. We've conducted a lot of SSMP audits over the years. We did the last 2 for the district, and then we do a lot of the main major programs in the Orange County and Southern California areas. So you see just kind of a list of all the different agencies we've done this for. So we've seen a wide variety of programs and see what works and doesn't work also within these SSMP programs. Okay. As Scott mentioned, the SSMP audit is conducted once every 2 years, with the previous one being conducted in November of 2020. It's a comprehensive review of the SSMP and the SSMP supporting documents. So we compare the SSMP to the requirements of the state WDR that's listed there, but we also compare the SSMP to the actual practices of the district and what they've implemented. We don't want anything that's stated in the SSMP to say, hey, they're doing these activities when they're not actually doing it. So you don't want any contradictions. It's more than just a checklist. You know, they don't want to see, the state doesn't want to see just a yes or no checklist. If they're doing it, it should be a comprehensive evaluation of the program. And so within our report, we go into the details of each section and explain what our findings are. But we're not just looking to find, you know, the non-conformances or find what the district is doing wrong. It's also an opportunity for program improvement and also highlight positives and the proactive actions that the district takes to prevent sanitary sewer overflows. So the general audit process consisted of an initial kickoff meeting. Then we reviewed the SSMP and additional documentation supporting documents. We then conducted staff interviews and then prepared the final report. Within the report, we identified any potential non-conformances, also provided recommended corrective actions, and then listed opportunities for program enhancements. Some of the data that we reviewed, just a short list, there's a full list in the Appendix A of the report. If you're interested in seeing everything we reviewed, you know, main things are historic SSO data, cleaning history, and rehab and rehabilitation programs that the district is implementing. These are the main program elements of an SSMP. So there's 11 total elements that we reviewed. And again, in the report, we go through each of these elements and describe our findings and whether or not the district is in conformance. Won't go through each one of them. Here's a list of the staff that were interviewed as part of the audit. So Scott, the general manager, Mark Esker, Steve Kano, Caitlin Tran, Joel Ortiz, and Tony Gomez. Just the main personnel responsible for implementing the SSMP programs is the goal there. So the main metric that you look at from a SSMP program that determine if it's effective or not is your SSO trends, so sanitary sewer overflows that are occurring. And you can see during the previous audit, it wasn't such a great trend. It was slightly trending up, but over the previous 2 years, we've seen a decreasing trend in public sanitary sewer overflows, which is good to see. And the main goal also is to be below the state average for sanitary sewer overflows. So this is the state average for similar size sewer systems. So we compare the same size sewers of other agencies and how many spills they're having. So the district is, over the last 2 years has done a good job of preventing sanitary sewer overflows. Another metric we review is the SSO recovery percentages. So when the state evaluates a program and decides like, are they going to audit them or investigate them? They're not just looking at total SSO numbers. They're also looking at how well an agency is responding to the spills that they do have and recovering the volume that's being spilled. So over the previous 2 years, the district recovered 100% of the volume that was spilled for the 3 spills that they had, which is really great. So getting into the specific programs, the district has implemented a proactive preventative maintenance program where the entire sewer system is cleaned at a minimum at least once every 18 months. And they're meeting this 18-month frequency goal. And they've actually added additional resources recently where they're able to evaluate potentially going to cleaning the entire system annually, which is very proactive compared to other agencies that kind of do the bare minimum. Some of the additional resources that are key in helping to do this is the addition of a combination cleaning truck and additional wastewater maintenance workers. Additional preventative maintenance activities include the lift station maintenance. On a monthly basis, they go out and inspect and review each of the lift stations, and the district has also implemented an annual air relief valve inspection program for the force mains. They do proactive root foaming in areas where they have heavy root intrusion into the sewer system, adequate equipment and replacement parts from their inventory, and have implemented smart manhole covers in high-risk spill locations. These are manhole covers that alert them when the sewer is backing up and raising up in the manhole so they can get someone out there before there's a spill. For SSO response, they've implemented an adequate SSO response, emergency response plan for both the main sewer system and also contingency plans for each of the lift stations, which is important because at the lift stations is where you have the potential for your largest sanitary sewer overflows. So it's good to have contingency plans in place for those as well. The staff are adequately trained in SSO response and have the necessary resources available to respond to sanitary sewer overflows. The sewer system master plan was implemented in November of 2021, and a positive from this was that there were no significant hydraulic deficiencies identified through the evaluation process in developing the master plan. The master plan is focusing on lift station and force main rehabilitation projects, and are also prioritizing repairs of grade 4 structural defects. Grade 4 just means severity. It's on a 1 to 5 scale, where 5 is the most severe and 1 is least severe. And on the next slide, you can see they've already addressed all of the grade 5 defects that were previously identified. So that's why now the district is focusing on grade 4 defects. Also doing a proactive ductile iron pipe lining. An iron pipe can be very corrosive and it can cause blockages in a sewer system and reduce the capacity. So they go in and chain flow it out and line it to repair it. Continued reduction in enhanced maintenance locations. In 2010, 12 years ago, they had 95. Used to call them hotspots. Now they're enhanced maintenance locations, and they've worked them down to 16, with the majority of those actually being siphon locations. And importantly, the district has a CIP to address ongoing sewer system management projects and available funding to implement those projects. And so this just kind of gives you a brief summary of the CIP and the planned projects for the next fiscal year. One important takeaway from this that we look at is that there's a good distribution of projects amongst the CIP funds. You don't want to see most of the pie graph taken up by one project and then not being able to address other needs within the district. So there's a good distribution. For the FOG program, same thing with the FOG program as the main programs. We review FOG-related SSO trends. And so similar to the public SSOs over the previous 2 years, there were no previous 2 fiscal years, which is important to point out here. There were no FOG-related sanitary sewer overflows. So that shows an effective program. Main elements of the FOG program is going out and conducting proactive inspections of the food service establishments, and we focus on the enhanced maintenance locations. When the inspectors are out doing inspections, they provide educational materials to the facilities, which is really important at this time because there's a lot of new hiring of employees at food service establishments because of all the layoffs that were associated with COVID-19. So we're seeing a lot of new employees being hired. District also has available FOG disposal locations, especially for residential community. They can take their waste, grease, and oils to Orange Coast College and dispose of it at a container there, which is a good program. Okay. So nonconformances. So the positive here is that there was only one identified minor nonconformance in this report, which I think this is probably the least nonconformances we've identified for many of the audits that we've conducted. So it's a very good positive. And so the nonconformance here is related to on-call responsibilities for SSOs that occur after hours. So currently in the SSO ERP, it states that the CNR, there's a plumbing company available, sorry, CNR Drains, so for a minute, it is responsible for responding to after-hour spills, which now the district doesn't contract with CNR Drains anymore. It's the staff that are responsible, which in interviews with the staff, they're clear on their responsibilities and they have a good after hours on-call schedule that they're following. So this is just a matter of updating the SSO emergency response plan. So recommended program enhancements. First one is to update the storm drain system map to make them more user-friendly. District has a map of the storm drain systems, but they're very complicated with lots of things going on. They're hard to read, so just clarifying them so that staff can easily use them. Identify or provide additional training opportunities to district staff. Again, district staff undergo a lot of training and they do adequate training, but just continuing to look for any additional opportunities where they can do more. Update the requirement for when to contact Cal OES and the SSO emergency response plan. So there was just some conflictions there between what they were doing in the field versus what's in the plan. And they're actually going kind of above and beyond in the plan, which says for any category 1 spill to contact them, but you only have to contact them if it's more than 1,000 gallons. So it's just updating that. Some of these recommended enhancements, one of the hardest things of doing the audit is trying to determine is it a recommended enhancement or non-conformance. So some of these can be kind of borderline, but we have to ask ourselves, is this something that the state would find as being an issue? Next one, so continue conducting emergency bypass training for all lift stations. They've already conducted one session of emergency bypass training at a lift station. So just ensure that they're familiar with all of the lift stations so they know how to bypass them in case of a failure. Conduct periodic SSO simulation training. It says at the district yard or other facilities that the yard is very small, so it's hard to do simulation training there, but this is going to be a training requirement of the new WDR. So it's important to look for opportunities where simulation training can be conducted. And then developing standard operating procedures for interactions with the city in Newport Beach. This is for identifying new food service establishments that could be missed through plan review. Finally, continue residential education at FOG-related enhanced maintenance locations. So focusing on the enhanced maintenance locations because education is really the only tool the district has to prevent FOG discharge at residents. And then updating the SSMP and supporting documents by June 2023 to comply with the recent WDR updates. And really this should be updated because the SSMP is not required to be updated by June. It's only required to be updated until May of 2025. It's just the spill response plan that has to be updated by June. So we may need to modify the report with that recommended enhancement. And then so that it doesn't state that the SSMP does. Okay, and with that, I'll open it up for any questions. I went through it very quickly.
I have a quick question. How many of the maintenance locations require the enhanced maintenance due to fog? You said there were currently 16.
Yeah, there's 16. That's a good question. How many of them are fog related? I know there's half of them are siphon locations. And so then probably another half of to 3/4 of those are fog related, I would say. I don't know exactly offhand.
Could you just clarify what siphon means when you?
Yeah, so in any time the sewer line has to go, say like under a freeway or an overpass, the line has to actually kind of go down and then back up again, which creates an area for lots of things to accumulate within that pipe segment just because of it, that you're losing gravity flow there. So it has you don't need a pump there. You have a siphon effect to continue to pull the water through the line, but it allows for lots of accumulation. So you have to clean those areas more frequently. Then there's nothing you can really do about it, unfortunately. Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Let me just piggyback on your question about enhanced maintenance areas. How many are fog related? I think it's very less than that. I think it's probably about 20% of those are fog related. Most of our enhanced maintenance activities are structural defects, and it's just more cost effective to just clean it twice a year than go ahead and repair it. So we did a cost analysis and determined it's just more effective doing it that way. So it's very few are fog and mostly structural defects.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Ian, did you have a question? Oh, okay. Okay, Jeff?
Hello, Jeff Arbor. Just curious, I saw it's a WDR requirement for the Santa Ana, I think Santa Ana Water Board.
Yeah. There's a potential for that. It kind of depends on how that spill affected the receiving waters. You know, if you have a large spill that say goes right into the Newport Beach Harbor, we've seen, yeah, there's definitely a potential for that. But if it's, you know, small enough, then they may not issue fines if they feel. Also, it depends on if they feel the district did everything they could to try to respond to it and clean it up. So there, yeah, for any Category 1 spill, there is a potential for monetary fines, definitely. Not for this audit. So the requirement under the new WDR is that the district will have to upload their SSMP audits to CWIX, which is the state water board's reporting website. But when you upload it, it won't be a public document. It'll only be private to the state to review. But for these ones, they just have to keep it in house and then provide it upon request. Okay.
From what I understand, the state's really looking for the large spills, contributors like over 50,000 gallons. In fact, if we have a spill that's 50,000 gallons, we have to go perform water quality samplings. 50,000 gallons or higher. So if you have a spill of 50,000 gallons, that's going to get their attention. Anything less than that, we still have to report it, but chances are they won't contact us and being fined. We, like Joe said, we can still be fined. Yes, that's true. But they're looking for the big violators, the big violators. That's what they're looking for. Yeah.
Any other questions? Well, I found it such a thorough report. Thank you so much. And I think for anyone who's new to learning about the district, and it could be really helpful reading the summary at the beginning, laying out how the district operates. It was very, very thorough. Thank
Oh,
you
good.
so much.
Thank you.
I did have a question from the 2020 audit. I forget, I can't quite remember what the nonconformances were from that, but was there any assessment of if those were all completed and?
They were completed, yes. So right after that audit, the district created a audit implementation plan where they tracked all of the findings. So all of the nonconformances were addressed and implemented. I think we mentioned that in the SSMP audit section of the report, but I mean, that's okay. But yeah, all of the nonconformances were identified or were addressed. Yes.
And then is this available on the website, their report? Because I couldn't quite locate it. I found the SSMP on the website, but the CMSD website, but Mhm. But I mean, if someone who didn't know that we discussed it at this particular meeting was just going on the website to try to find the audit of the SSMP, is it? Okay. 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 All right. Thank you, Joe.
Everybody.
Happy New Year. Oh, your disc, your
Thumb drive.
Joe's not getting this back.
Really motivated to go home tonight.
You know where he lives.
Let's see, we're circling back to B3, discuss the proposed rollout plan for the 3-cart system.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, we don't have a plan to share with you at this point because the board has not approved the amendment with CRNR. The reason why we put this on the agenda is because this was on the work plan. And so we just wanted to make sure that we don't forget about it. But hopefully we'll bring it back to you in March, the plan. Okay.
Okay. Would this be an opportunity to discuss the questions from the study session yesterday, just to circle back and see if the CAC's suggestions for those 3 items I'd said?
They were discussed yesterday, those 3 items. And one item regarding the 35-gallon cart, we will put that in the agreement. As far as the outreach, the knock and talk. The board told direct staff, definitely do that, but doesn't have to be in the plan. Just
Okay.
if you want, just continue doing that. And then the third option was, I'm trying to refresh my memory.
I wrote it down. Oh, just to update everyone, back in July, we had gone over, one of our discussion points was the initial negotiation points for the amended contract with CRNR. And the board is on track to potentially approve the amended agreement later this month. So, and they were discussing it at the study session yesterday. And since that's kind of the main part that we need to discuss, this rollout plan, I just kind of wanted to circle back and make sure the higher level suggestions we had suggested in July, if they weren't in there,
Yes.
there was a chance to kind of just circle back and make sure the board considered them. So one was making sure that I forget which 65 and 90 gallons are default, but making sure that the 35-gallon cart was available if someone maybe had trouble maneuvering such a large cart or didn't want such a large cart. So that'll be offered. Back when Mike Carey presented about the Newport rollout, he talked about the importance of the knock and talks to come and talk with people individually and how that kind of personal one-on-one interaction could really be such a positive way to encourage the behavior change. So I just wanted to circle back because it was mentioned in the contract, but not like a specific, like every residence needs 3. So I just wanted to see if we needed to make it more specific. And then the other one was we changed how to assess fees if homes are missed for missed pickups. And I know Vice Chair Lester and I were concerned because we had both tried to take a lot of time to report if residences were concerned, because if it just had to be that every homeowner had to submit a complaint and there wasn't some other way to put the onus on CRNR to report the missed pickups on a larger scale. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Like based on just the customers that take the time, week after week to report a missed pickup, if there's a way to access like the GPS data or something from the truck.
Yes, and we do in the contract, we do have the right to access their GPS data to get that information. So that is in the contract.
Okay. And is there like a plan to be able to do that though, the staff?
To access the GPS. Well, the plan is really just we could just request it. We say give us. I think they have a certain amount of days to supply to us. But once we request it, they're according to the amendment, they're supposed to supply that information to us.
I would imagine the hauler is reporting they're short a driver or they've missed a route So then I would imagine the district would have those numbers also,
I would imagine,
possibly.
but originally when we discussed it, it was just going to be based on customer complaints and that.
Right, right.
Because if you get one complaint and it's a whole neighborhood, it's not going to be accurately.
Yes, having access to their GPS system is going to greatly help us.
Yes, that'll be wonderful.
Yes,
I'm so
yes.
glad that's in there.
Yeah, be great. Thanks.
And then did they complete their rate survey and inventory? Because I know we talked about that back in July as well.
They did, yes, they did complete it. But we haven't seen the whole report yet. Yes, yes.
Okay, so we'll come back to the rollout plan in March. It's in.
We'll stick to that plan. Yes, we'll see how that works. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to item B4.
Yeah, so suggestions for regarding methods for engaging traditionally hard to reach populations. So as we've been talking the last couple of items on SB 1383 and on how this new behavioral change we're requiring of residents to source separate, the concern is, there are some traditionally hard to reach populations out there. So how do we reach out to those populations? And so the first step we really need to do is identify, well, who are those populations and where are those populations located? And the best way to do that is really from data. And I think the best and available data is from our 2020 census, US Census data. And there's a link we put in the staff report. Hopefully you had a chance to click on that link. It's got some really great data on the 2020 census. And if you would onto that website, you'll see this type of map on that website. If you go to the next slide, please. Can you click on? There you go. So this tract is on the west side, and this tract we found through the corner of the U.S. Census has quite a bit of a income disparity. From this tract, the median income is the lowest in the district. It's actually the median income in this district is 47% below Costa Mesa's median income of $90,370. So that tells us that maybe residents in this tract might be able to afford internet. They're also predominantly Hispanic, which tells us maybe their Spanish is their first language. The census also found that nearly 60% of Costa Mesa populations are renters. So we're assuming most of the residents in this tract are renters. So that means there are a lot of residents probably moving in and out. So we have different residents. So there's that constant and continual education of new residents about the program. So that could always be a challenge. If you go to the next slide. So the next two tracks adjacent to track 63605, the median income is a little bit higher, but it's still well below the Costa Mesa's median income. And track 63604 right here, the income is 39% below Costa Mesa's median income. And then the track above it at 63701, the median income is 36% below the median income. The race and ethnicity in both these tracks are predominantly white, and it's assumed that most population are renters. But according to the census, the most common racial and ethnic group living below the poverty line in Costa Mesa is white, followed by Hispanic. So the data supports here that we focus on the west side for outreach efforts on SB 1383 due to income disparity, possible language barrier, and high turnover residents. But if you go to the next slide, and as you heard from Mike Valle, the contamination level on the west side is actually quite good, 14%. Okay, so maybe that's not the issue. So this is the other discussion I'd like to have with you. Maybe we discuss focusing on those areas that had the high contamination levels. I mean, if you look at the Santa Ana Heights area, it was a small area, but there was over 24%. And then you got the College Park and part of the east side is, that's nearly 20%. So maybe that's the population we focus on, those neighborhoods that have high contamination levels. And so before we have that discussion, just kind of show you the type of outreach methods that we currently use in our community. We have a very successful, popular newsletter. It's actually a 4-page newsletter that goes out to all our residents, all our customers, and that is bilingual. So for the residents on the west side that maybe if Spanish is their first language, it does help them for that. So, or if there's internet issues, then we do have that as a really good source of information. We do rely heavily on social media. As I maybe I mentioned earlier, we are now connected to Nextdoor, which is huge. We never had access to Nextdoor in the past, so having that capability to send information out to specific neighborhoods is greatly valuable. We also do cart hangers, little notifications we can place on carts. We've done that before. We've had special events I'm sure you're all aware of, like our Eco Challenge and our shredding event, which is great resource to give out information. So those are the type of resources we've used in the past. So what I'm looking for you tonight is some discussion as what areas do you want? Do you think we should just focus on the neighborhoods that have the high contamination levels? And if that's the case, do you have any suggestions or recommendation on different methods that maybe we can use to reach out to those residents to help them, improve on the contamination level, or do we continue focusing on the west side with those populations? So I'm curious to hear what the community has. So that really concludes my presentations, and happy to answer any questions you may have. So this is the opportunity for discussions.
Well,
Oh, wait, and I'm gonna let Rosemary go first. I'll get to you guys, sorry. Rosemary.
a lot of
It'll be a good
comments.
discussion, I'm excited.
Well, I'm interested in actually increasing communication, I guess, throughout the district. Definitely, the focus probably should be on areas that are struggling with contamination, but really looking at how do you engage different populations within the district. And I think I've seen that some districts will focus on social media because that's a quick and easy thing to do. But sometimes it really takes taking the information to the community where they are most likely to receive it. And I've found that sometimes social media isn't ideal for those populations, particularly senior citizens who may not be as savvy on social media, and also people who either are in immigrant communities or don't speak English. So I know, like on the west side, there's a very popular Mexican supermarket, sometimes maybe having a booth there. I know at the library, we have a lot of different people coming in, our seniors and our Spanish speakers, because the city is putting on events at the library. It would be a great idea, I think, to collaborate with the city. I think the city is actually having a dump day coming up. So to cross promote that, and then maybe to have a booth at dump day so that you're talking about and you have food scraps bins or pails available. And all those pails have stickers that have infographics and or information in English and Spanish. That way, people who don't speak English, or maybe even people who don't know how to read, can see, oh, it does, I can put my apple core, or what do I do with napkins, or, other items, whether they go in there or not. So just thinking outside the box on how to reach people where they're at versus what works for us individually.
Awesome. I took some good notes on. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm gonna do Annette and then Mike. Okay.
Well, I was just thinking maybe like a little meeting at the elementary schools, or having representatives from our district there with brochures or explanation sheets, but I don't know how your other meetings went when you were talking about the changeover a few years ago. I don't know how those were attended, but a lot of times in their elementary schools, they're used to the different languages. I think a lot of the schools present things in 2 or 3 languages. Yeah, English, Vietnamese, and Spanish. So, they might feel comfortable going to the multi-purpose room of their elementary school.
It's a great suggestion. We have every 3 months, the district, which includes basically myself and board members, meet with City of Costa Mesa, the mayor and council members and senior staff, along with Mesa Water District, the general manager and a couple of board members, and the school districts there. And so maybe there's an opportunity to put that on the agenda and maybe get the school district to collaborate with us on that. So thank you. I'll put that on there. Thank you. Yes, 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 definitely. Thank you.
Michael, did you have your hand? Okay, all right. Judy.
Yes. Yes.
I was going to suggest using the elementary schools or even junior high, whatever fits in there. I think I taught school in that area. And having the school where they're used to it. And the parents really would like to do stuff, but they do have language issues and just they work so hard and are exhausted. So it needs to fit in with the schedule. But yeah, and the more you do it with them, the better.
Thank you.
Small, but constant.
Thank you. Good suggestion.
Cindy, did you? And then
I have a question about the goal. I'm not clear on the overall goal of contamination. Are we trying to get contamination throughout the city below 14% or zero, first of all? And then we have the new program coming out. But there's already contamination. We already have an issue. And when the new system rolls out, there's going to be more confusion and we'll have more contamination. So is there a way to educate about not only about this, but what's coming and what is the goal? I'm not clear on.
Well, there's no such thing as zero contamination. So we can't get, obviously that'd be the best of both, but we can't get that. So the state says it's acceptable to get 10%. So that's our goal, is to get about 10%. We get less than it, great. But we're getting around 10%. That's why when Mike Biden said, well, some of these 14, that's not bad. You're really close. 10% is the goal we're trying to hit. Also, I think when we go to the 3-can system, now we're going to require people to put their recyclables in a blue can, which they've never done before. They know what goes where, what's not supposed to go there. So that's the goal is to really 10%, get that 10% goal, but also changing people's behavior and getting the habit of where to put what material into what can.
I'm in the same school as Rosemary. I think that the overall education of the city is really, our district is.
Yeah.
really important.
Okay.
But I think that there's obviously some room for improvement in that one area where it's 24 and where it's 19. We can certainly concentrate maybe a little harder. In
Yeah,
those areas,
okay.
But I think that the overall, the suggestions that they're making about contacting people overall in the city and making sure that we can do it bilingually.
Yes. Yes. It's really important. Yeah. Thank you. We try all of our written material, which we do bilingual. We do. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Well, it's the ladies behind you. They're the ones that put it together.
President Schaefer? Oh, that's not, sorry.
Wait a minute, I gotta get a green light. I can't resist a chance to. First of all, I'm a huge believer in the educational component with kids. If we're gonna reach a goal of recycling, it's not gonna come from, somebody mentioned the word senior citizen. I'm gonna take that. Was that you? Yeah, okay. We're not gonna reach these goals by hitting the parents. The kids are gonna have to drive this. And over the years, different organizations have had programs at the school. My father for years was the public relations director at Mesa Water. And his job was to speak to, I think, 4th graders and 6th graders about the water system. And the kids learn that. And I think if we're going to have success, we're going to have a component in there that gets to the schools. And the kids are going to go home and say, you need to start putting your cardboard in the right thing, Mom. That's what's going to make the big shift, I think. The other thing I think we need to be cognizant of when we looked at 636.05, and I don't know if we can take a look at that one again. That's where I grew up. Okay. And when I was a kid 100 years ago, that census tract, if you look at that, it's predominantly rental units and not just single family rental units. That is probably the biggest, other than over in Mesa Verde on the corner of, the 2775. That's huge apartment complexes in there. We don't have any control. We don't reach those people because we don't have contract. We only go up to 4 family. My point is the city of Costa Mesa's got to buy into this educational component as much as we do. And quite frankly, we're not getting the attention from the city that I think we need. They're not taking this as serious as we are from the sanitary district. So there's going to be some work involved with making sure the city council buys into this, because ultimately when 1383 is implemented and the fines start coming down, they're not going to find the sanitary district. They're going to find the city of Costa Mesa, which is going to affect way more than just our ratepayers. It's going to affect everybody. So one of the challenges we're going to see is having the city council and the city staff buy into this. So 6306.5, they do have a low contamination rate. But if you think about it, we're not getting a lot of data out of 63.05 because their trash goes into a dumpster that we never see. Okay, so Scott's comment about, do we focus on just the people with the bigger contamination rate? I think we need to do that, but we have to remember that we're getting a much better, a bigger sample of contamination from the single family areas than we will be from actually all 3 of those census tracts. If you think about it, there's a lot of apartment complexes in there that we don't have any data available to us. So again, the city buying into this, and as we do our liaison meetings, we've tried to talk to the city about it, but sometimes it falls on deaf ears, I think. So just a thought.
One meeting is scheduled again for this month, isn't it? End of this month. How exciting. The last Friday of the month. It's the 27th at like 8 a.m. I think. Okay.
I wanted to say something too.
Wait, Vice President Schaefer, are you trying to?
Could I make a comment?
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we can hear you. It's okay.
Oh, okay, you can hear me. You know what Mike was saying, President, just made me think. Years ago, a few years ago, we did, as a sanitary district, go to like upper grades, the 5th grade, 6th grade, and talk to them. And then we made a presentation. They had the opportunity to ask us questions, and we had a little flyer, and they took it home to their parents. And from that, it's true. This is how we can really get through with education. Aside from the part that we should take this comment to the liaison meeting so that we can get the school district to buy into it, because the school district has a real tough schedule, and it's so hard to get a program into them of going there. I used to do it for the flag salute, so they understood where the flag came from. And it's so hard because the teachers all have their own type of teaching, and they don't have time for a lot of programs. So you have to do this in advance, talk to the person who's in charge and so forth. It's a whole realm of things. But anyway, that's, to me, I agree with what President Schaefer said, that this is the way you're going to get through. It's not the idea of just seeing who's sneaking something into one of the cans. So that's it.
Thank you so much. I also agree with the education. I'm sure somewhere in the science curriculum, there must be something about climate change and recycling. So it might be worth trying to figure out what grade that's at and trying to
Sure.
work with the teachers.
Yeah, somewhere in I can't remember, I want to say third grade, but it might be older than that,
It
but
might be, but
Okay.
does anyone know if the schools have, because I've started to see in places like the Irvine In and Out has 3 bins now. There's a compostable thing. So do we know if the schools have implemented the 3? Because once they do, they're gonna have to
Well,
train the kids like, okay, if you have
I'm
leftover lunch, this is the bin.
pretty sure Davis Elementary School has it.
That
Right?
makes sense.
I'm sure they do. Davis has it, but the other schools, I don't know.
But I wonder if as
don't
they're
know.
they're training the kids and how to use the 3
Yeah.
cards, that might be a perfect time.
Sure. Excellent. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, Annette?
Lot of money on those things.
True.
Because they do, they would take the majority. The kids actually did cooperate. We just would pull off basket.
Hmm.
Put them right next to the trash can. And then another idea that I was thinking. Schools have assemblies. They have different assemblies for different things. And they're subject oriented. And you could create the school district something like an assembly.
Yeah.
Like the Rotary Club used to give treats to the kids. Still do that, but we don't have someone like. But we make that time. And they were at that point, they thought that was worthwhile.
Mhm, mhm.
Is the audio working?
Yeah, I think people online can't hear you, so you just, yeah.
It's on.
I need to be closer.
Oh, it's not, okay. Oh,
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yes.
Some kind of some kind of an assembly, that we could figure out, maybe with the school district. Teachers do love doing assemblies, especially if they're put on by other people,
Sure.
and they don't have to do a lot of work for it. And the kids come in and get them excited about that. I think what Arlene said about the upper grades is really good, 4th, 5th grade, get the kids involved, so.
Great. Yes, thank you. Great suggestions.
I was just going to say that there are very robust programs to implement environmental education in school systems. So that might be something to look into. And I know there are some programs, like for zero waste schools, and they do different things at different grade levels. And obviously people will focus on the elementary schools, but also in the high schools, they often will have like an environmental club or ASB. So just getting some of those school leaders to be trained, to be motivated about separating trash. I know at the younger grade levels, they've also implemented share tables, because at like the elementary school, they'll give them, the little entree and the apple and the milk, and the kids don't want to eat their apples. So instead of throwing it away, they have a place where they can put it on a share table, so that if there's another kid who's hungry, they can eat the food instead of it having to go into a scraps pile. And I think it also helps to train and motivate the janitorial staff and the lunch noon aides. But it takes more than just a one-time touch. Sometimes you're going there once a quarter. And if you think about all the schools within the district, it can be time intensive, but ultimately it's quite valuable if you can get that type of a program up and running.
Michael?
Just a kind of a procedural question, and also a question about resources. You have a lot of ideas. You probably contemplating, staff is contemplating, you've heard from here, and probably hear from the board too. What are the resources you have available as you kind of think about all of those ideas and opportunity areas to kind of work to implement them? And are you coming back with a plan, or is this something that weaves into and kind of leads into 1383 outreach planning?
Does, thank you. It does kind of, it leads into an outreach plan. Nabila is working on that right now. We're kind of working from backwards. We're trying to get an idea. Once we know when the blue cans will be rolled out, then we're going to work from backwards on the dates on that and setting establishing the outreach plan, which would include like some town hall meetings, but we could also include if, and it's really going to be an if, because the school's got to be willing to be participating in this. And that's always been kind of a challenge for us, is that they think, oh, it's more work we want to do. And so we'll have to see how, acceptable they are for them. If they are willing to cooperate with us, that's great. Resources are a bit limited right now. I am proposing to the board having some more staff on the solid waste side, so we can get some more staffing to help be out there in the community. We just hired an intern not too long ago, so we do have an intern to help with outreach. So that's going to be very helpful. But we just do the best we can with the resources we got. It's not obviously our outreach plan is not going to be like OC waste and recycling like the counties, but we just do it the best way we got.
And I don't know if is that in reference to 1383 outreach?
Yes, 1383.
Okay.
Yes.
So there wouldn't be any RFP to go out for both kind of the communication materials, but also maybe somebody who can help with
We have,
that
thank you.
staffing at
Yes.
different events and creating activities and initiatives with partners.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. We do have a consultant, Tripepi Smith, that we have on board that helps Nalani and Gina on the outreach and getting our message across. They help us with putting together like videos, newsletters, photographs. They've been a great help, and we'll continue using them as well. Yes, that was great. Yes.
Not this slide, but the other map, yes. So it's kind of similar to my comment to Mike Vallier's report. It's just that 14.41. Again, that seems less than the 24, and I mean, overall it is, but I'd be curious what the food waste is between the two. Like, they could be fairly comparable, and it's just that one that's 24 has bigger yards, and so they might have, I don't know, the green waste could be more of an impact there. So that would be helpful. If we're going to the data, it would be helpful to know if we really should be targeting more like the food waste behavior or the green waste or both, but kind of get a sense of if one is more problematic than the other. And then the knock and talk, not to harp on that, but I realize it may not be, I don't think CRNR is offering someone to be full-time Spanish speaking, but do we have something in place? Have we considered maybe offering a Spanish version of this knock and talk? To Rosemary's point about being able to, if someone's coming to help you learn how to use your carts and kind of help you get up to speed, do we have an option where we can provide Spanish?
Well, like Nabila, she's bilingual. She's the one of our staff person that helps with translating and speaking to Spanish speaking residents. She has gone out in the field. She can do that, but as far as how much time can she commit doing the knock and talk, I'm not sure. Yeah, and I'd have to consult with Mike Carey's not here, but I have to consult with them to see who they have on staff. That I know they have Spanish speaking staff. I just don't know if they have any. Could they dedicate someone to us? I don't know.
I would just advise if there's some way to, I don't know, as we hand out the tags, maybe if they need additional assistance in Spanish or would like to request maybe just
Good point.
something to consider.
Sure, that's a good point. Yeah, oh yeah, that's definitely open to the public. So those are 8 o'clock in the morning. So as President Schaefer said, it's here, so it's open to the public, and you can make comments to the liaison committee by all means. And we do video, we do record. We're going to be doing it live, right? So if you don't want to be here, you can watch it at the comfort of your home too, and you can also communicate with us online too. So you don't actually have to be here; you can do it from home.
Are they normally well attended by the public? No. Oh,
no.
that's too bad.
I think.
One members of the public usually.
Well, and that's for work.
Yeah, and we're the only ones that go live and record it. The other agencies don't do it. Yeah. Yeah.
Else having last comments? Michael?
The comment I had kind of piggyback on those, I was going to use the word precincts. I got to get that out of my head here. Census tracts and those studies is kind of understanding, and this is just me, you don't have to, we can talk about this afterwards, just understanding, particularly in that west side census tract, how many of those households, residents are customers here? Like how many in total are there population, and then how many are, city customers versus sanitary district customers too? That kind of shines a little bit of a light about, how many people we're talking about.
Yeah, and President Shaver made a good point on the track down here. And I don't have that answer at this point. I need to do a little more research on it, but that's a good point. I didn't really think about that, but it's something we need to consider.
That kind of goes back, back to that point, and I'll talk to you afterwards
Sure.
too, because it's a state bill, is the collaboration with the city. And so really, and I'll work on that, pushing them to publicly articulate what their plan is, both their timeline and their outreach efforts, so that it does go hand in hand with what you're planning to do, rather than, I hate to say, them look a little bit more maybe dysfunctional or behind the ball here in trying to comply with these requirements, particularly for these communities and these households.
Which city, is it Huntington Beach, Fountain Valley, whatever, that care for the rest of those that aren't in the red line? Yeah, because that area is going to have to be careful about their garbage and
Sure.
trash and so forth also. So it doesn't hurt to educate the kids if they have a short border walk or wherever they go to school.
Yeah, that's the educating the school. It's a good point. Educating the kids is a good strategy to help with our outreach efforts, because no matter where they live in Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, or Fountain Valley, they still got to do the same thing as we do. They got to sort of separate. So that's a good idea.
Yeah, and the main thing with the people there, you can teach the kids a whole lot of stuff, but the adults are very shy, and if you speak two languages or something like that, and you know all this information, they're just sort of embarrassed because they don't. So it's really nice to get the kids all pepped up and then be polite to their parents.
Okay, Rosemary, one last.
It looks like there's 7 polygons on this map.
There's what?
7 areas that are designated here.
Yes.
How many more sections are there? Because it looks like the majority, like if that colored area is the district boundary.
Yeah, so these are all census tracts here, but so if you go on that link of that website, the link on the report census, you click on that, you go on that website, you go to this page, you hover your mouse over the census tract, and it'll tell you the information. It'll tell you what this census tract number is, the median, all that's median household. So you could kind of see how, like, this is the tract. I don't know what numbers they are, but like this is the tract, this is the tract. You can see how they're outlined. So that, like, this is the track right here. I don't know what number they are. You hover your mouse over.
So the areas that you have a waste composition study for within the district, the percentage is small then.
Yes.
It's not the
Yes,
majority
yes.
at all.
Correct. That is correct. That's correct. Yes, we're continuing. Yes, yes. Mhm. Yeah, I'd like to start hitting up the northern part of the city, or northern part of the district here pretty soon.
So much, everyone. I'm going to move
It's
it
good
along.
information. Good information. Yes. Yes, I think we can get this done.
5. It's the popular financial report, annual.
Yes, the Popeye and Financial Report. Thank you. The PAFR. Yes. Okay. So everyone knows local governments, they adopt the budget. Cities and special districts, we adopt the budget, right? That is our planning document. But if you really want to know what your local government spent the previous fiscal year, you go to what's called their ACFR, the annual ACFR, the annual comprehensive financial report. That's the document that shows exactly what they spent that year. If you want to know what your cities or our special districts, what our unfunded pension liability is, you go to the ACFR, right? That's how it's all that information. The problem is the ACFR is can be very large and very complicated, especially if you're not into finance or you don't do this very long. You don't know where to look or what to look for. And especially in the cities where they have tons of different funds. I mean, the ACFR is hundreds and hundreds of pages long, very intimidating, very difficult to read. So that's why most organizations, or not most, but some organizations develop what's called the PAFR, the Popular Annual Financial Report. It takes all that information in the ACFR that's hundreds of pages long, it condenses it down to like a dozen pages. And it uses a lot of graphs and bar graphs. So anyone can understand what your organization spent, right? It just simplifies it. It makes it more transparent and it makes it easier for the public to understand what did my organization, what did my government spent the last fiscal year. Surprisingly, and I'm really surprised that most public agencies do not do PAFRs. I don't think the city of Costa Mesa does one. I know Mesa Water doesn't do one. Very few do them. I don't know why. Probably because it just takes a lot of time and effort. That's probably what it is. And it is. It is true. It does take a lot of time. But for transparency purposes, I think it's very valuable that governments do PAFRs. If you go on our finance page, Nolani, can you pull that up? Our finance page. You can see all our PAFRs, all our ACFRs are on our finance page. And if you go, pull that up here for a second. So again, most you go to a lot of the city's websites or government websites, you have that transparency page, and then you usually have all the financials, and you'll find their ACFRs. Their ACFRs are there because those are state requirements. We have to complete an ACFR. We have to send it up to Sacramento. Yeah, go to finance there. So if you scroll down, go down farther, financial reports. Financial statements. You have to expand. So you can click on that, and then there's all our financials. So you get all our reports. The last, I want to say 2021, we just received an award for outstanding PAFR. If you scroll all the way up to the top of the website, So I'm really proud of our finance department. We are a Triple Crown winner, which means that we received the certificate of excellence for the ACFR, which is the COA. We also received a certificate of excellence for our budgets, and then also the PAFR. All three finance documents. Not many public agencies receive this recognition, so I'm very proud of the finance department to receive that. So if you have a chance, please review the PAFR. If you want to know what we spent, it's all there. It's all transparent. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
I think she did such a fabulous job, her and her team. It's so well organized. It was very clear. For anyone who's new to the district and trying to learn kind of like as an overview, I would almost suggest you give it as suggested reading to new CAC members. It was just such a great
Yeah,
job. It covers just about every program. And there's neat graphics. It kind of.
Yeah, I don't even refer people to the ACFR. I should go to the PAFR. It's just easier. It's all there. It's just a few pages long, graphs, bar charts. It's easy to understand. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for showing us how to find it on the website too.
You bet. Yep, that was it. Yep.
Okay. Do any have any comments or closing comments? Cindy, yes, of course.
neighbors asked me about large item pickup. Oh, it goes from little to big. And residents, I do remember when I first moved to the city, we used to have 2 times a year, they did a large item pickup. And you didn't have to call, you didn't have to write everything down and hope that it didn't get stolen on your out in front overnight, because that creates a problem. But I was wondering if there was any opportunity to go back to something like that. I know now we have to actually apply, call, list what we're going to put out. And if anything changes, which we have no control over overnight, then that creates problems. So is there any opportunity to go back to something like that?
Well, sure, there's always an opportunity. I'd have to discuss it with the board, see if they want to do that. We haven't had any plans to do that, but I can discuss it with the board at a study session and see what their feelings are. I know we got away from that because a lot of scavenging. It was this scavenging in the community because they knew the exact weeks that everyone was putting their stuff out. So they knew, okay, we got to go to Costa Mesa because that's the day everyone's putting their stuff out. We can go get it. So that's one of the reasons why we got away from that program.
Hopefully I speak, but a lot of the reluctance on our part from the board was these scavengers. I mean, our residents put your large items out that are in a nice, neat little pile. And then by the time you get up the next morning, that pile is spread. I had one of my neighbors say to me, she says, when are you guys going to go back to the large item pickups? And I explained to her what the program was. She says, well, I really miss walking around the neighborhood and going through other That's exactly what we don't want to do. But a lot of our reluctance is that fact that there's a bunch of people out there making a lot of money off of.
You do it a couple of times a year, at least there's something left for you to pick up.
Yeah,
If you're going to an individual's home, I mean, I've done it many times and never is the same stuff on the curb the next morning.
Right.
You know, and then it creates an issue and I go up there and talk to them about it. So I get it. I understand it is a problem and I don't know how to address it. People think it's okay.
Well,
to
you
go-
know, for the longest time, we had neighborhood watch, and that's done by the city. And so neighborhood watch was very successful for a while, and then it just kind of went by the wayside. So to me, somebody should go to a city meeting and just say something about, we wondered if you're still going with the neighborhood watch to different areas, because that's a great area that people would all call each other and say, who's that car? What's that person? Very helpful for us too.
With all due respect, we have neighborhood watch, we have cameras and other pretty things for security, and it doesn't matter. We catch people on our cameras every day checking our car doors. So if you have stuff on the curb, it's free will, a free game, right?
I'll discuss your idea with board president.
Or I don't know what the answer is. I really don't know what the answer is, because either way you do it, people are going to pilfer, right?
Right.
So I don't know what
That's
the
true.
answer is, but
I guess I'm a little confused. Say I have a small dresser drawer that I don't want because I bought new furniture or something. So I put it out on the curb. What harm does it do if somebody picks it up off the curb because they think, wow, I could use this, or maybe I could resell it, or who knows? But by them taking it, it diverts it from the landfill. So I would think that's a good thing. Difference I think would be, say, with material that is recyclable or has some value to the district, sort of like if we had a third card and someone's digging through my trash for aluminum cans, I see the cost to the district because you would be sending a truck out to pick up those recyclables to help counter the cost. But with bulky item pickups, I just imagine a lot of like couches and dressers and broken chair, things of that nature. I remember a neighbor who had like a baby bouncy thingy and put it out in hopes that somebody would
Mhm.
like it, that maybe somebody could use it instead of it having to go to the
Yeah.
dump. So I guess I have always kind of cheered that on, like, hey, that's a cool looking dresser. And if someone needs it, I'd be happy if they took it.
That's very true. In College Park, that's what everybody does. If you have a chair you don't want or any kind of material that you don't want, you just put it out by the curb, on the city side, and somebody picks it up and it's free.
Well,
And sometimes they even put a sign on it that says it's free. So, yeah.
if you're just putting out a couch in a cabinet, and someone takes it, we're not going to call the police department or code enforcement and go, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. They want to take, great. But
Mhm.
at the same time, if you don't schedule a large item collection and you just put out the material on your sidewalk and hoping someone picks it up, and then no one does pick it up, then you're going to get complaints from the residents, hey, someone just dropped off this material, no one's picking it up. And I guess who gets to pick it up? The city gets to pick it up. They don't like doing that, so they got to put it back to the yard. So, and then the old way, the big problem is, as President Shaver said, that you had people just roaming through all the stuff and just making a mess out of on the sidewalk, and then just going off to the next house and just making a mess. And it was a big nuisance, and people were complaining about that. And
Mhm.
so that was a big issue. That's why we got rid of that. Now, if it's just one cabinet and someone takes it, great. And no one's going to complain about that.
And Scott, realistically, I agree with you. I mean, if someone's got a need for something, great. A decision was made years and years ago, long before I was on the board. Part of the deal with CR&R is they're going to collect those recyclable things that are the large item things. And a lot of that stuff, let's be frank here, they sell it and they make money on it. Okay. The good part of that is CR&R, by being able to get a little bit of income off of that recycling stuff, it helps keep our rates manageable too. So there's that economic trade-off with the large item thing. I encourage Scott to bring it back to the board, Cindy. We should talk about it, and if it goes back to a Schedule 1, then we're going to have to live with what consequences happen, the messes and all those things. So, but it is worth discussing it. And it'd be worth having CR&R tell us what their success is or what their detriment is.
Just one question, this is Jeff Harvard. I was reading West Mesa's having another dump day on Saturday. So it's an option for your neighbors for now on 19th Street.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
You got to get there early. They mentioned that once they fill up whatever bins they have, it's done. And I have a feeling those bins will get filled pretty quick, unless it's pouring down rain.
Oh, it's going to rain.
Your comments? Judy.
Okay, one other. Okay, so you have a big thing and you want to put it out and whoever, and you call them call CR&R and say, I have a large item to be picked up.
Mhm.
Okay, then somebody else comes along and picks it up before CR&R. And so CR&R takes the time and gas to come out to pick up something. It's not there. How do they feel about that?
Honestly, I don't think if it's fewer items, they're not concerned. I think the more concerned is if more items are on there. So because that impacts their scheduling. So if you're saying I got to put 4 items out and all of a sudden the driver shows up and you got out there and not the items that you're supposed to, then you're going to have more issues with that because that's going to take them more to load up the truck's going to fill up more. It's going to impact their operations. Now, if they had 4 items and someone from the public took that 1 item out and they have 3, they're not going to complain about that. They're not going to worry about that.
What if they took the 1 item and took that?
Yeah, they're not going to worry. CNR was not going to worry about that.
I've had that happen to me. I've had it happen to me where, I called up and said, I've got this item out in front, and they wanted to know how big it was and the size, so forth. And by the time they got there, it was gone. And they don't do anything about it. I mean, what can you do? It's gone.
Okay.
I just wasn't aware that they retrieve that stuff. Stuff out there and it's in that thing and then it goes over. I mean,
Yeah.
I had a really nice table and I thought, no, I'm gonna put it out on the curb because somebody will refinish it, you know, they'll love it. Because I didn't know they were saving that stuff because of the way it goes in that thing and then it goes over. How do they retrieve stuff to resell it?
I'm talking about the things they sell are like the metal you put out or
Oh,
things that are recyclable like that. The furniture and stuff, heaven knows what they do with that.
well, it just goes and I think it goes to the landfill is what I think. So I myself have liked putting things on.
Might be white goods, like refrigerators or washing machines, things that have a lot of metal. Sometimes there are like trucks that will drive by and they'll take your
Yeah.
stuff.
Yes.
Had a couple closing things. I was so excited about the Eco Expo last meeting. I thanked staff, but I was remiss. I forgot to thank the committee members who were volunteered, and quite a few of you did. So I really wanted to say how much I appreciated that. It was such a wonderful event, and I think it was much stronger that so much of us showed up and participated. So I just wanted to thank everyone. And for the videos, there were some videos we recorded too. So thank you for those who participated in that as well. And it's coming up on the time to reapply. If you might want to consider serving another 2-year term, I believe applications are being accepted now through April 15th. Is that correct? Okay. And I just want to say the Christmas tree collection seemed much smoother this year. I don't know if you needed to use the third-party contractor.
Oh, it's been worked, yeah,
It
much
seemed-
it's been the smoothest since 2019.
Great job. And I really appreciated the option where if you hadn't gotten your stuff together,
Yeah,
you could
yeah.
still call. and
Yes, you
have
could.
someone
Yep,
come there.
definitely, definitely.
No one else has any other comments or questions? I'll adjourn the meeting. Our next one is Wednesday, March 8th.
Everyone.
All right. Thank you so much.